announcement and a cry for help. You are being advertised to on the internet, in your home, at work, on the radio, on television, in the store. You are being advertised to. Look around every day and say it to yourself. I am being advertised to. Once you notice that nobody wants to help you or give you service, but instead they just want your money, you realize the world you live in is a lie. Defy it, or you'll be facilitating your own enslavement.
Yeah, right. I'm not dumb enough to drink that stuff.
Come on, we do dumb stuff all the time. We're like two peas in a pod.
No, I'm definitely smarter than you. It's been that way ever since you dropped out of high school.
Dude, what? I don't need no high school education. You can't use anything from school in everyday life.
You see, this is just what I've been talking about. I can't even relate to you guys anymore because you're too immature. What? I've got to start hanging out with friends that are a little more intelligent and understand politics and stuff. It's just that I'm up on this level up here, and all my friends are down here. You don't know what you're talking about, fat ass. No. Me, nah. You guys, nah. Maybe a little more down in here.
Fascinating creature, the crab. Got that hard exterior, but he ain't really dangerous. Except to another crab. Dumb as all hell. Can't even walk straight. Matter of fact, the only thing a crab is good for is holding back other crabs. A crab don't want to see another crab make it.
Yeah, I guess.
Crab is like, if I'm gonna die, we all gonna die. I admire that. We all gotta die sometimes. Might as well help each other get there.
All right, man. All right, I get it.
Oh, you get it.
Yeah, I get it.
You get it now.
I get it now, man.
Then eat it.
What?
Eat it. Eat my poison fish, brother. Oh, let me guess. You want some hot sauce to go with it, brother?
All right, man. All right, you made your point, DeMarcus, okay?
Look outside. That's the future. That's our future. Salted and battered.
Oh no, we've become so smart, they're stupid to us. Quorum he, vitio Morianis.
Morianis? Morianis vestris incipiet rem totem!
Et harum facere deberet ire stultum.
This is subject material that I've butted up against, and trust me, I know that in these contexts, it's just a silly little episode, and it's not meant to be that serious. I think, even conceptually, I just take this concept personally. And it bothers me a great deal, even though I do see how it may be true. I just think the fact that we live in a world where it is true is pretty horrible in and of itself. These episodes of shows explore this concept of our friends, our society, our normalcy holding back exceptionalism, and it's a real phenomenon that I've gone over in these past two videos, which I guess is a series now. I obviously don't need to tell you that none of these episodes are status quo changes for the show, where, Mordecai and Rigby are permanently smart or whatever.
I've outgrown all my friends. I need to meet more mature people, Cladvrug.
You're right. There is no point.
Huh?
What's the point in being so smart that you can't even understand anyone? We have to get stupid again.
Surrounded by knowledge, and no one to share it with. No one I can call friend. Who's that old chap I used to run with? SpongeBob.
The moral seems to be that you shouldn't feel a need to improve yourself, assuming you're already happy. And that what to you is boring and normal, to others is stability. Your role in someone else's life fulfills a niche. I know I don't do this very often, but I want to ask you, the viewer, write in the comments below if this is actually true for you. Do you have a single thing in your life that's stable or that gives you a sense of belonging? Because I know right now things politically, financially, they are terrible, like globally. So, where are you guys? Do you have a cool boyfriend? So yeah, where are you guys? Do you have a cool boyfriend like I do? Or are the people you live with codependent situationships? Like, at this point, I'm pretty convinced I'll never find an employer that does more than pretend to care about my well-being when, you know, what they really care about is getting sued. Which, I can't even do anyway because I'm poor. And I'm convinced that there really isn't any trustable institutions. We've all witnessed the death of third spaces. They were deliberately murdered by brutalist neoliberal architecture. And of course here, you know, the internet is no longer for nerds. That battle is long dead. I don't know. I wish I could just find somewhere to find someone to have intellectual discussions with. And I'm offended by the idea that this is cartoonish. Why is that unrealistic? That's not fair. This is an idea I've returned to over and over again. I'm going to list topics that I've discussed that all pretty much circle this idea of free will and acting on your free will. If you don't have time, it's because you didn't make time. Feeling stupid, and being okay with feeling stupid, is what actually makes you smart. Being brave isn't about being fearless. Brave people are very afraid, but they choose to act anyway. And the other one that I can remember off the top of my head is importance is a choice. Because things only have meaning if you choose to believe in them. Not just that people have different values, but even if, let's say, you have two things that you value, you get to choose which one has priority, right? These are all kind of things that I've developed while trying to talk to other people, and they make a bunch of excuses as to why they don't want to talk to me. Because I'll bring up uncomfortable topics, and they'll say, oh, I don't have time, or, oh, that's not very important, why are you taking this more seriously than it should be taken? They'll say a bunch of shit just to basically bottle up their emotions, and I'm very, very sick of dealing with people like that, like both in real life and on the internet. And there are things I've developed because of that, and in a way of like trying to understand the rest of the world and how do I get through to people, you know? Because clearly the direct approach isn't working. They don't buy that. So, how do you do it? Today, let's branch out from importance. I primarily use this idea against people who try to tell me that video games aren't important, since that's the thing that I like to focus on. The first time I developed this was really with speedrunning. This has since grown into an appreciation for storytelling merits. In both cases, there's a very rich and deep understandings to gain. With speedrunning, it's not just about practicing already known glitches, it's about understanding exactly why those glitches happen to find new strategies in other places.
As I explained earlier, I navigate up the path from the lake using the 6 triangles I isolated, and I've marked them in the relative map so you can follow along. So basically, I get onto a triangle, let my speed drop until I'm around the sinking speed for that triangle slope, then navigate uphill on the triangle, and then move to the next triangle. Using what I taught you, you should be able to follow along with my movement.
Most people are completely incurious to this, though, and they think that Pan and Koak making a video like this just, it has to be some kind of inside joke. Like they can't take the game seriously because they've really never loved anything. Even people in the hobby kept telling me to just fuck off and copy whatever world record does. Because there's no way anything new could be found. Today, of course, if you join the Night of Under Frights Discord, what you'll find are people talking about how barrel jump is hard, which is a glitch I found. And they're now seriously routing snacks per second. Exactly what I was bullied and ostracized for in 2018. But nobody would tell you that because it just doesn't fit their narrative. As for storytelling merits, it's the same thing. I mean, my current video essay is on 3D Zelda, and that gets into what Aonuma's early influences were, his contemporaries like Ueda and Koizumi. There's a lot to learn about this genre and about this medium. And I read a ton of fascinating interviews that reveal Aonuma's experiences working at Nintendo and his emotional attachment to certain side quests. But people don't want to learn any of that. People just want to regurgitate a plot synopsis over and over again, like how you rock a baby to sleep.
There are two reactions you can have when you don't understand something. Stupid people get angry and lash out when they don't understand something rather than trying to understand it. This is why they stay stupid, because they never seek to learn. This is the reaction of idiots to things that they don't understand. Rather than trying to understand, they get mad at the other person for being smarter than them. They think it's condescending for the other person to not sink to their level. If you're smart, though, seeing something you don't understand should make you curious, not angry.
But there's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed.
So in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, the government promised you a good job. If you were a member of a society, if you were a citizen, I promise you a good job that you would have for the rest of your life, okay? So in the 80s, the government said, I promise you that you have low prices and a wide selection of goods.
Everybody walks around, they're walking advertisements. They've got advertisements on their clothes, you know. They're walking around with Adidas written across their chest, or, 49ers on their hat. Jesus. It's pathetic. It's pitiful.
I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything.
If you think about this, what this really is the perfection of slavery. If you're a slave, you rebel, right? But if you don't know you're a slave, and you like this, you choose this, then you will never rebel, okay?
Now, there's one thing you might have noticed I don't complain about.
When you are incarcerated, you are obviously stripped of your freedoms. But what that really means at its core is that you are stripped of responsibility and your ability to make decisions for yourself. A prisoner doesn't decide when they eat or what they get to eat on any given day. The COs decide that for them, the correction officers. A prisoner also doesn't have to worry about whether or not they'll have the money to eat like a free person would. A free person has to purchase their meals, or they have to go to the grocery store and buy groceries.
If you're a slave, you rebel, right? But if you don't know you're a slave, and you like this, you choose this, then you will never rebel, okay? So the consumerism is the perfection of slavery.
But that slave mentality, it boils down to protecting what's familiar, protecting what you know. If you've been a slave your entire life, at least you got to live your life in a shack and you got to eat some chitlins and potato skins that the master threw out onto the back porch. And I guess that they saw that guarantee of that lifestyle, even though I personally see it as a pretty shitty lifestyle, as better than the chaotic, unknown range of possibilities that a free life could condense into. Because
the financiers are just there to make money, though, and if interesting experimental movies could make money, they would make those. So the blame really has to go to the audience who demands to see the same thing over and over.
If you have selfish, ignorant citizens
If you have selfish, ignorant citizens, you're going to get selfish, ignorant leaders.
When I've seen something that tries to be different or interesting, like Tree of Life or Upstream Color, the audiences who don't like it don't just say that it wasn't to their taste. They get mad. They feel cheated. Because when they pay for their ticket, they feel that they've entered into a contract to get a certain kind of 3-act entertainment that's something that they will immediately understand.
Okay? And that's why Francis Fukuyama thinks that consumerism is the end of history, because it is a system that achieves what the elites want, and the masses are unwilling and unable to protest and rebel. Okay, does that make sense? It's a perfect system.
I can't emphasize enough that these behaviors are endemic of Americans. People who live outside of the US just don't do this. They don't behave this way. Not to the scale, anyway. People in other countries aren't this unprincipled and aren't this lazy. The only reason the United States is the only country that doesn't have shame is because we're the only country that doesn't have any culture.
The thing that sets the Americans apart from the rest of the cultures in the world is we're so fucking stupid. This country's been around for a couple of hundred years and we think we're hot shit. And we don't even realize that other countries have thousands of years of history and culture, and they're proud of it. And when we deal on an international level, you know, with foreign policy and stuff like that, and we try and go in as, you know, a big American strong country and all that stuff, they must laugh up their sleeves at us because we are nothing. We are culturally nothing. We mean nothing. We're only interested in the bottom line. You know, every other country has their own art, their own music, their own theater, their own drama, their folk dances, folk songs, folklore, and it means something to them, and they're proud of it, and that's their ethnic heritage. We have Levi's, we have designer jeans, we have hamburgers, we have Coca-Cola, we have REO Speedwagon, we have Journey, we have this one, we have that one, and then we go out there and we say, yeah, but we also have neutron bombs and poison gas, so maybe that makes up for it.
Really, when you say that Americans have no culture, a bunch of Americans who have no self-awareness will get defensive about it. Okay, so what is culture? Well, it's really a set of values. So do Americans also have no values? Well, in effect, yes.
Alright, what would you say life was like when, when you was at, my stage, just coming out your first year? Because I was just, watching some shit the other day on you. You like, yeah, chilling on a car and shit. It was like an MTV interview. Like, yeah, the album just went 3 times platinum, my first album, you know what I mean? And I can just imagine, because me, when I came out, people projected me to do 0, considering I leaked a month and a half early and shit. And then when I had the #1 shit, it was like a miracle. So I really related to what you was talking about. That shit crazy. That shit don't seem real, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And do you still remember that feeling?
Yeah, I remember that feeling, because I was still in the neighborhood. I was still, a part of the hood. And despite all this big shit that was going on around me, I still was the same person. So it couldn't affect me. It got bigger than me. And I see the same, things with yourself as far as being connected with all your homies. How you started off and how it was all about you and your homies. That's what it was about with me and my homies. Making sure everybody eat, making sure everybody's involved. But as you grow, you lose certain homies, because it's called closing the gap. This is the gap when we start. This is the gap as you grow. Notice how you grow and they don't. So how do you close the gap? You got to come back down. When you come back down, you lose. So you got to keep going up. That's why closing that gap got to be them catching up to you. And if they don't catch up, you got to leave them behind, because you getting to the point now where you got to start cutting out. You know what I'm saying? And it's like you can't look back when you cut them out, because if they meant to be there, they're going to be there.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah, because I had to cut out family members before. Me and my cousin Daz fell out before. When me and him fell out, it was like, how do you fall out with, I taught you everything you know. I put you in the game, and you go against me. But that's what the laws of the game do. It puts you in a position to where sometimes you have to have these types of situations to see who really supposed to be there.
True indeed.
this shit ain't made for everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's like everybody ain't gonna be a fucking star. Everybody ain't gonna be the shit. Everybody ain't gonna be what you are. It was 60 niggas that you was rapping with, and out of them 60, you the motherfucking one. And you can go back and try to help all 60 of them, but guess what? Ain't none of them gonna ever be you. And I done done it many times where I done tried to make niggas stars and rapped on their shit, took them on tour, damn near gave niggas my shoes, my clothes, my everything. Here, you can have all. I can't make you a star. Stars are born, they not made. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if you ain't born one, you can't make one. And you can't take your energy and put it into somebody and make them what you are. I had to cut a lot of niggas out that I really felt like, you know, man, I wonder how he doing. You know what? I can't worry about how he doing. Because if I worry about how he doing, then I'm going to miss a beat and I might miss my lines on stage and they may not want to pay me like they've been paying me.
True indeed.
I got to get this money.
True indeed. True indeed. I could dig that. You know, man, it is funny, man. You might as well just stop this rap shit and get on some psychic shit. Because I swear you a psychic one.
Be like Dr. Phil. For all the rappers, Uncle Snoop. This week on Uncle Snoop, it's special guest A$AP Rocky as they talk about love, life, and liberty.
If there's nothing you value more than money, you're just the definition of a prostitute. So if we can prove that every single supposed American value is valued in society less than it values money, then I'd say we'd have a pretty clear shot at proving that they don't even have a foundation to build any culture, let alone culture itself. But before I do that, let me emphasize again that this is the way things have been because this is all they've been allowed to be. If at any point during this you stand up and you say, hey, that's not how I think, I'm not going to say that this isn't about you, but what you need to then do is take that inclination and actually take measures to set yourself apart. Don't just tolerate the current state of discourse. Speak up. Because by not saying anything, you're expressing your complicity. So what we're generally taught in public school is that the Pilgrims fled to America to escape religious persecution from Great Britain and the Catholic Church. All throughout history, different countries and different races have been both master and slave at one point or another. Great Britain, in this respect, was no different. And since they lost their territories in America, and they actually metabolized that in this scenario, they didn't just fail, they were the bad guys. At one point in time, Britain as a country was able to walk away from that mistake. Americans don't have this kind of humility. If you ask an American what point in history they've been the bad guys, they have no clue. The government intentionally hides military data from us, and we don't actually get a vote on military spending in any meaningful sense. And that's also ignoring all the other ways that your vote doesn't count, but I digress. Even once something from the military gets declassified, nobody in mainstream journalism ever metabolizes it. It's just seen as some kind of vague thing that happened 2 decades ago. So who cares, right? I mean, Americans didn't do it. It was the American military. Very different. Meanwhile, today, if you look at the country formerly home of the Nazis, the most evil people in history, the vast majority of everything the country did during Reconstruction was to live every day, not just in spite of those mistakes, but to prevent them from ever happening again. This goes deeper than demilitarization. The result is that Germany is a world leader in social services and transportation. It's amazing to go on social media and see the culture shock that an American would have at a middle-class German lifestyle. So, what country really won World War II? The country who sees and writes itself as a hero with zero flaws? Or a country that felt the truest evil in its heart, wrestled with it, and chose peace instead?
Okay, so where do I scan my tickets?
You don't have to.
So there will be someone in front of the train door to check my tickets, right?
No, we just get in.
Now that we are on the train, there has to be someone coming and check all of the tickets, right?
Yeah, sometimes they are.
What about the other time?
Well, they kind of trust you. You're inside of the train, so you have to have a ticket, right?
They must be bankrupt at this point.
They sort of are.
So we are driving to France, which means at the German-French border, we have to all get out, show our passport, and then switch to a French train, right?
No, we're just driving straight to France.
With this train?
Yes.
To another country?
Yes.
No stop?
Not at the border.
Honey, this is a 5-hour train. Why don't you book a bed for us?
What bed?
Like, don't you have sitting area and sleeping area too?
No, we just have seats.
In Vietnam, we have beds on the train.
Okay, but how fast drive your trains?
Okay, you have a point. Honey, where can I lock the backpack?
Why?
Because backpack is not allowed in the supermarket. That's how it is in Vietnam, so that people cannot steal.
So you're planning to steal?
No.
Yeah, marketing is just words of affirmation ASMR for your buying habits. And billionaires are hypnotizing you. They're lulling you into a false sense of security and blah, 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 blah. All of that is true. All of that is completely true. And there's probably not a single innocent person out there. Speaking personally, I should be boycotting Nestle, Angel Soft, and Burger King. On a personal level, I don't demonize the action of buying those things and purchasing them, because I just go, yeah, I'm not immune. But at the same time, if I saw somebody else doing that, Americans don't have any shame. They can only feel pride. When an American renews their Disney Plus subscription, they aren't thinking about how much of a horrible company Disney always has been and will continue to be. All they can think about is their shitty nostalgia for a studio slop made by people who were severely underpaid and in literally countless cases, uncredited. These people were stripped of the freedom to even complain about how underpaid and undercredited they were.
Disney was enthusiastically involved at every stage with the work of his top animators and rewarded their efforts by treating them like film stars.
In the 30s, which was the period of the Depression, the height of the Depression, I was living the life of Riley. I didn't realize how fortunate I was. I was earning a very good salary. I had 2 servants, a large house, 3 cars. You know, what in the world was I going to do with 3 cars? And the one time we did try to use the big car, and Herbert, the man of the couple, insisted on playing chauffeur, I just couldn't stand it after a couple of blocks, and I had him move over so I could drive the car to the premiere of Snow White.
I've recently gotten into a habit of flipping off Teslas in wake of Memphis. Most recently, I did this at the mall, and I did this right before the car parked. He gets out and he says, "What did I do to you?" They really don't understand. Even if you do own the car outright, the logo and the design of the car is still free advertising. You're driving a literal symbol of apartheid. The guy's defense was, "Man, I hate him too. I bought it before all the bullshit." Okay, so you bought the car not before any of the bullshit happened, but before the bullshit became mainstream knowledge. I mean, you're paying $40,000 for something. You didn't do any research about where your money was going? And you don't have any idea who Peter Thiel is? Like, are you fucking kidding me? You know, I should really be looking at it like a disease and think, okay, this person needs rehabilitation. Not everyone can quit cold turkey. You know, that's really hard because it can be very ambiguous. Recently, this week, I had a guy at work. I had a really good conversation with him about James Gunn movies, and I mentioned a lot of things that I'm just gonna quickly show on screen. Right? Anyway, the conversation was awesome. I'm glad we have something in common. But this guy started the conversation with, "Hey, are you a Marvel guy?" You know, as if GOG is a Marvel movie. I mean, that's like saying Ratatouille is a Pixar movie, right? Pixar does not make movies. They never have. They never will. Pixar is an animation company. Directors make movies. But it's really difficult to navigate. Like I know, right? Obviously, I know that making a judgment before you let something play out, before you let someone get across what they're trying to get across, if you make a judgment before that happens, that's just the definition of prejudice. But at the same time, there's something in me that wants to make that exchange more efficient? Like how am I supposed to tell if someone is brainwashed and they're simply trying to reach me, or when they're trying to brainwash me? I feel like that line can get pretty fuzzy, because you don't have to be malicious to do this. It's like Mental Outlaw was saying, this is a result of being institutionalized. You just think incorrectly. And it's not because you're evil, it's just because you have been misinformed. When I was in the 5th grade, I met this girl at my school. It turned out we lived in the same neighborhood, so I went over to her house so we could play. When I got there, she was showing me, like, her toys. She had a teddy bear, and she also had syringes. And I don't mean, like, a plastic syringe. I mean, she had glass syringes with a real needle. And she drew up a water bottle. And she injects the teddy bear with water. And, you know, we were both kids. I'm certain she didn't know. I certainly didn't know. I thought it was funny, and I told my mom and dad. They instantly recognized that her parents were heroin addicts. You know, I never saw her again. So there's so many things like that. That guy at work, you know, he might have tried to make me watch Infinity War, which, in my view, is just as destructive to your brain as taking heroin. You know? So how do you draw that line? How do you know when someone is ignorant themselves versus when someone is trying to hypnotize you? That is the thing that I need to know. I don't have an answer. I don't have a conclusion here. That's a big reason I probably won't upload this at all. You know, usually I have more involved topics, but this is more like a, I'm trying to find a conclusion because I don't know. I don't know, you know, how I'm supposed to navigate things more efficiently, but at the same time, I don't want to, like, filter people out, but at the same time, I don't want to be, coerced, you know? So how do I be vulnerable with someone without being naive? How do I, you know what I'm saying? How do I straddle that line of, like, opening myself up to someone, but not let it get out of hand and not let it, like, turn into, because I feel like if I try to control the conversation away from that, they're gonna think that I'm just a bad friend, or that, you know, and it's gonna go back to the thing that it was before, where I kept dealing with people who think that, you know, just because I take video games seriously, I must have some sort of, like, brain damage or whatever. I don't. I just think that, you know, this is, our hobbies and our interests are things that we control, and politics is unattainable. We can't control what, you know, voting doesn't matter, and blah, 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 blah. It's circular. I need to, I need to escape the circle. Because all of the things I just said should have been obvious to me, but I really didn't start thinking this way until I got halfway through high school. So right there, you know, that makes me feel stupid. I should have known. But actually, knowing you have a problem is the first step to fixing it. So now that I know, I can start the change and make myself a better person. But, you know, perspective plays a big role, and I think nobody is immune to it. Like, for me, a big thing is that, you know, I can't have a long conversation with someone unless it's about Zelda, right? So there's one. So that limits who I'm able to talk to, what kind of perspectives I'm able to see, but also by holding up this mentality of, like, you know, I hate everyone because they don't use Linux and they use Windows instead. Or I hate everyone because they watch Marvel movies, you know. You could do that. I did that for a long time. I was atheist for a long time. Now I'm agnostic. Or it's ultimately created the problem that I myself observed. Like, I attained a persecution complex. And I've decided to end this video with clips from Megalopolis.